Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Hope you guys are doing well, and we're going to have a little bit of different content today. Today, we're going to look at 5 potential free transfers that can strengthen or set Cardiff City up well for next season. If you do like this new style of content, as well as the regular podcast series, please do subscribe for free and drop a like on the video. That always helps us out a lot. But right, let's get into the enigma that is Cardiff City. Let's be honest, it's been shambolic now for a few years, and that falls squarely at the feet of the board. The lack of football people within these decision-making processes, whether it be transfers or managers, is a worry. Has been for a while. The fact it hasn't been addressed, let alone fixed, is mind-boggling. So just kind of want to talk about, first of all, before we get into these free transfers, or what I think is some good free transfers. News broke this week that Sebri Lamouchi, after keeping the Bluebirds up, would not be staying on as manager, which, let's be clear, I understand he may not be every fan's cup of tea. I do get that, but where we were when he came in, he did a tremendous job of steadying the ship. He switched to 5 at the back a lot of the time, and it made us a lot more robust at the back, but also it benefited us going forward. It allowed some of the midfield players to get stuck in. Sorry, Cabba really benefited from playing off Connor Wickham. The wide players, everything just looked like it had a bit more structure. We looked like we had a plan, and at least how we were trying to play. Maybe the quality of players wasn't quite there. But I, for one, am disappointed he's leaving. Not necessarily because I believe he's the second coming of football management or anything like that. But I just think, yet again, Cardiff City have sacked the manager with apparently no plan in place for his replacement. And I mentioned on the Rhodri podcast recently, I think it was last week, that I talked about the importance for Cardiff City of getting this summer right, as you cannot keep flirting with relegation every season, particularly when you've got no money, because eventually you will get swallowed up. And make no mistake, Cardiff only just survived this year. We were just lucky that there was some poor sides down the bottom, and Wigan left it too late with their run at the end. For what it's worth, my personal opinion, I would like to see Nathan Jones come in. I thought he was the right man previously when we were looking for a manager, and I still do. However, if the board's just going to bin him off the first time the results get a bit iffy or a bit problematic, then it doesn't matter who it is, because it's just going to be the same vicious circle and bad decisions, no planning. Initially, it looked like Sol Bamba, who's Lamouchi's assistant, was going to be the replacement for him. That does seem to have cooled a little bit. I thought that was a bit of a limited decision. I thought, I love Sol. I think he's a club legend. He knows what the club's about. There is some pluses to him being the manager, but to expect him to come into his first managerial job and turn around the football club, which is in turmoil and got so many problems within the squad from a football point of view, but also off the pitch, I think is a massive ask. And I think that's asking too much of someone who the fans love. But there we are. But in recent days, former manager Steve Morrison has become the favourite, which again is kind of mind-boggling. He was sacked earlier this season out of the blue with no reason given. The team was starting to gel, put together some performances. Yet another example of that terrible planning, which I referred to. It was infuriating because there was no communication with fans, as always, and no one knew why he was sacked. And it didn't kind of coincide with what was going on. Like, I get it. He is not everyone's favourite person. He's very prickly, particularly with the media. Fans, I think some like him, some didn't. Ultimately, I think he was doing a relatively good job. You could see improvement on the pitch. There was certainly a level of togetherness that perhaps we hadn't seen previously, or certainly in recent times. But even his harshest critics, easy for me to say, would agree that the timing of his sacking was odd at best. But there we go. That's my view on the manager. I think it's a poor decision because there's no plan in place. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. So now we talk about Cardiff. Cardiff, the football team. We'll leave the off-the-pitch stuff for now. Maybe we'll talk about managers. Maybe we could do a video about potential managers coming in if people would like that. But for now, let's go with we're going to look at 5 I've picked out 5 free transfers from a long list of free transfers this year. There's a lot of quality out there, a lot of proven championship quality out there. Some people sent me some in, and thank you to all you guys as well. Cardiff have got limited funding. I think that's an understatement, which means they need to be very clever in how they utilise free transfers and how they utilise the loan market. There are players available in both these markets this summer if Cardiff move quickly and professionally. So to get today, we're going to look at 5 players who I believe will improve Cardiff, not only from a quality point of view, but a depth point of view as well, something which we've struggled with a little bit in recent times. If you guys would like to see a loan market version of this video as well, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know who I've missed. I'm sure, look, there's a million people who we could be linked with, free transfers. There's a long list of players from League One, Premier League, Championship. I've tried to pick out 5 that I think will suit the club's needs with players leaving and stuff like that. But I'm interested in what you guys here have got to say, because also, I teach me something, and it's never a bad thing. Every day's a school day, as they say. But anyway, so first up, I've gone for Teemu Pukki. A Finnish international who's been with Norwich City for 5 seasons. In those 5 seasons, he scored 87 goals in 198 appearances, scoring regularly, particularly in the Championship. He's also bagged a load of assists, which we'll talk about in just a second. Now, Pukki's not getting any younger, and at 33, he is in the latter part of his career. However, I think he's the perfect replacement for Connor Wickham, who's going to head back to Forest Green after his loan spell at Cardiff City. Some will say it was all right. Some will say maybe it wasn't so good. Had a few little off the field things as well. But I thought if you're expecting Connor Wickham to come in and bag a load of goals, that was never going to happen. He's not that type of striker. What he is he will give you a lot of good link-up play, good movement. He'll be tight to the centre-back, occupy the centre-back, allowing the younger, faster players around him, more mobile players, to create chances and score. And I actually think Sorry Cabot in particular really benefited from having Connor Wickham up there. Unfortunately, both players have now gone back to their respective clubs. But with Pukki, I feel that he can be a direct replacement for Connor Wickham, and I think he's certainly an upgrade in many aspects. So first and foremost, Teemu Pukki played 41 games last year. He scored 10 goals and 7 assists, which is, it's not mind-blowing, it's not amazing, but I think it's a good contribution in a Norwich side which struggled in the Championship last year. But the thing which catches my eye is within his stats is his expected goals. He's expected to score just under 13 goals in a season, but it's the assists which really, and the expected assists, that is something which I think is vital to how Cardiff could set up and play off him. And when you compare him to, so I've compared him to Connor Wickham, Keona Tate, and Sorry Cabot, which I understand, different players and different attributes. I do like a Tate. I think he has certain attributes which I think could be really beneficial in the Championship. I do think he's raw, I think is fair to say. But for instance, Sorry Cabot's expected goals are 8 for the season, whereas Teemu Pukki's is 12. So obviously that's slightly higher. Connor Wickham is only expected to bag a couple of goals each season. So it's an upgrade. And I think, he's a Finnish international, incredibly experienced, and also his record in the Championship in particular is excellent. And I think if we can get the right players around him, look, he's not gonna burst in behind. He's not gonna beat a man constantly with his pace, because that's just not the type of player he is. But he has got attributes that if you put the right players around him and you play a certain way, he can definitely provide goals for you and a lot of assists as well. He was 2019, he was the Finnish Male Player of the Year. He's won the Championship 3 times. So he's incredibly experienced within this league. He has struggled a little bit during the Premier League when Norwich have gone up. But I think, look, understandable. He's not the first one to do that. Mitrovic has taken a few goes at the Premier League as well, and he's been linked with some of the biggest clubs in the country recently. The interesting thing is in touches in the opponent's penalty area, he's in the 92nd percentile, which means he's right at the top for getting touches in the box and making things happen. Expected assists that lead to goals, or XAG as it's called, is in the 89th percentile, and actual assists is in the 90th percentile, which means he's right up there in terms of creating for his strike partners or the people, if you can get people around him. These stats are based on comparisons to peers in the same position in the men's 8 competitions around, like the equivalent 8 competitions around Europe and the world, which is interesting. Look, in my opinion, I think Teemu Pukki would be a phenomenal signing, but I also think there'll be a few clubs after him. So if Cardiff City feel that he's the right man, which I do, he should be. They need to get it done. Basically, they need to get it done quick, and they need to get him tied down. Free transfer. As soon as that window's open, boom, get it done. And the next one on my list is a very familiar face for Cardiff City fans, and one which I think many were sorry to see leave last summer. It's none other than Mr. Joe Bennett. Another player, age 33, which these days isn't massively old. I think Joe Bennett back to the club would be hugely beneficial to the team overall. He can play a range of positions, defence and midfield. He usually plays left back. I actually think he would make for a decent left-sided centre-back of the 3. He reads the game really well. His passing stats are really good. He retains the ball well. He can also pass through the lines from defence into midfield, get your ball players on, get your wide players on the ball. I think that's so important in the way that the game is moving these days, rather than just hoofing it long into the channels. Like, you need to be able to play, and I think he brings that. He also brings a bit of pace, experience. He knows the club incredibly well, and of course, he hasn't left that long ago, so it wouldn't really be much of a hassle for him to settle in. The biggest obstacle might be his wages, which I think was rumoured to be the issue previously. However, he's been at Wigan, so I can't imagine he was on massive money. They've just been relegated, so it seems like a no-brainer to strengthen the squad with a versatile player who can play football, brings knowledge of what it means to play for Cardiff City, and he can also provide strong backup and competition for Jamalu Collins, who will be returning from a long-term injury. He'll need time, so Joe Bennett provides an option that can be relied on and can keep going, and he can also help Jamalu going forward. So I think it's a no-brainer for me. Next up, we are going to bring the age of these free transfers down a little bit, and we're going to go with an ex-Manchester United player, former Newport County player, 24-year-old Welsh defender, Regan Poole. He was signed by United. He was highly rated by the club, but he chose to go in search of regular football. So my understanding from some people who cover Manchester United is that he was really highly rated by United. They really wanted him. They really wanted him to stay, maybe go on loan and come back. But the player and his family or his representatives chose to go and play first-team football, first at Newport, and then he ended up at Lincoln City. He's been there for 2.5 years now. He made 45 appearances last year, got a couple of goals. He also captained the side on several occasions. He's made over 100 appearances for Lincoln. He's a strong boy who defends really well in the air, but also on the floor, reads the game exceptionally well. And again, he's another who has the ability to pick a pass through the lines from defence to midfield. Having watched a few of his games last season and chatting to a few Lincoln fans, which I know, he is very highly rated. And he's someone who has got the ability to pick and choose when to come forward and win the ball, when to drop in. He reads the game well. And I think, to me, he's a Cardiff boy. Bring him home. Bring him home. One of the biggest issues for Cardiff this past season, probably going back further than that, is being scoring goals. And without Sorry Kaba, we would have been in severe trouble this year. We probably would have gone down. So working on that assumption, he's going to go on, working on the assumption that he's going to go on to bigger and better things. The next one on my list is it's my first gamble of the list, shall we say, because I do think it's a gamble. Lyle Taylor from Nottingham Forest. A proven EFL striker, particularly in the Championship, scored absolute bags of goals for Charlton, Forest. He can work well in the system that Cardiff usually play, possesses electric pace, although maybe not as quick as he used to be, but he certainly excels when it comes to finishing. He's got enough to beat a man. He's good in the air, 6'2". He is a goal machine if you put him in the right areas. That's what you've got to do. You've got to get him in the right areas, and I think that he's worth a gamble, because I think if you look at his recent stats, they're not great the last couple of seasons, but he's only made a handful of appearances. And I think for a striker particularly, that's very difficult to then push on and find form. So it would be a risk, but for a free transfer, I would definitely take a punt to have Lyle Taylor and Pukki up top, two experienced strikers, proven in the Championship. Get some young, pacey players behind them, whether they're loan players or the players, youngsters at the club. And also, we have someone special in Isaac Davis at the Cardiff City. And who better to learn from than two proven Championship goal scorers in Pukki and Lyle Taylor? So that's my thinking behind that. And last on my list was a bit of a difficult one. I was looking to add some quality in midfield, whether that be a bit of grit, some quality technically. I wanted to find the right player, and this free list, there was some real good choices on the midfield side. Jake Livermore, for instance, I thought was a good shout. John Fleck, Daniel Johnson, Oliver Norwood, they were kind of the four which I whittled it down to. I ultimately plumped for John Fleck. It was close, though, because I really like Oliver Norwood, and I wouldn't be disappointed if Cardiff picked him up on a free. John Fleck offers superb ability in his passing, both when recycling the ball and in breakdowns and transitions in play. He does the basics very well, but he's also got that creative streak to pick a pass from nothing, whether that's long and over the top or behind the fullback. He's got this creativity which not all players have got. I like his versatility as well. He could play wide through the middle. He could play a defensive midfield role in a more destructive role. He can be creative. He could play off the striker. He's got a bit of everything about him. And what I like is he has an edge. He's got a nasty streak. And sometimes I feel like Cardiff need a bit more bite, a bit more shithousery, shall we say. Sometimes we just seem a bit too nice. But I think that's my kind of list of 5, but I will give you a bonus one. I'd also sign George Long from Millwall, 29-year-old goalkeeper. I think he's a quality keeper, all round, experienced, but also young enough that you get a good few years out of him, and I think he can vie for a place in the starting 11, making the group stronger. And that's what these free transfers are about, is making the squad stronger overall, giving us a bit more depth, but also adding a bit of quality in there who can do some damage in the Championship. Also, I'll give you another bonus. If you want some long shot frees that I didn't really delve into too much, mainly due to the wages, but I'd take Aaron Ramsey and Phil Jones on pay-as-you-pay deals. Bradley Dack can still do a job. He is quality Championship footballer. He's had a few fitness issues over the last couple of years, and I think that is the kind of thing which puts me off him a little bit. I also think he's on quite high wages, but Bradley Dack, if you could get him down here, it's absolute quality. And then the final one, Jordan Ibe, absolute quality footballer, really, really good. But all of those guys on frees, but likely destined for different clubs to us. Listen, guys, let me know what you think of my picks for the free transfers that Cardiff should sign. Remember, it's only my opinion. I just back these signings up with some good young loan signings to mix in with that experience. I feel it would give us a good mix of mentality, technical ability, experience, and youth. But tell me who you would sign. Tell me what you think of mine. Be nice. Don't forget, Rhodri Giggs on Football Live every Thursday. My Story every Saturday. The Big Debates Tuesday. and much, much more. Please do drop a like down below. Tell us your choices, and most of all, subscribe. See you for the managerial choices in the next one. That's massive.